Hi everyone, as a lot of the regular customers will know, I have got quite a high content of original 1930s toys, mainly the Elastonlin and the Lineol ones, and I thought it'd be quite interesting to do a video explaining the origins and a timeline of how they were produced, the larger ones and the smaller figures, and the different types and the quality between the different manufacturers, and even how to date some of them and look for fakes and originals and what's good to buy and what isn't. So we can have a look at what we've got at the moment in stock. Okay, so here's a small section of some of the figures, which some of them go with the vehicles, and these are actually pre-World War II ones, which were really a larger scale in the 10 centimetre range. And I think the problem that they found with these, making vehicles, tin plate toys to go with them, would have been more troublesome because they'd have had to build bigger vehicles and toys. So as we start coming into the 1930s, they come into a size of around 7.5 centimetres. And this is more practical to introduce the tin plate toys so that they can be played with together. Okay, so if we look at the base of these two figures, there's a nice little trick to date them. This one with the blocked capital letters, that is a more early one, an early production, probably pre-war, maybe even the Weimar period. And then as we get into the late 30s and the start of World War II, the manufacturer of Elastonlin then created this new logo design, which is a more signature kind of joined up writing. So we know that this one is definitely from the period of World War II, early going into the later period, but this one is actually 1930s pre-World War II. What else is interesting to note on some of these figures that is another way of sort of dating them. If we look at these two generals here, they've got the more Weimar period hats on, without the red band, which makes it easier to identify as being quite early figures. What else is interesting to note is that in this period a lot of countries were not making toy soldiers anywhere near this quality. If we look at these ones down here at the bottom, the manufacturers have managed to capture that kind of movement in the figure, which is not seen in any other country at the time. If we look at this figure here of another nationality, it's a general, what's quite interesting about this is the detail on this figure, and it's actually got a porcelain head. It's very difficult to fake these kind of figures, and I don't think I've ever seen a fake one with a porcelain head. And how we can tell it's got a porcelain head is it's quite cold to the touch if you put it up against your face, or if you run it across your teeth, it has quite a gritty feel to it. But they are a superior quality figure, and they were sold as an individual, not a pack of soldiers or whatever, and they were quite a premium price. Now, you've seen the selection here. On my website, all these figures are listed, and there's some more, and there's from other branches of the Wehrmacht, the Panzer divisions and other divisions as well, Luftwaffe and Kriegsmarine. So please, if you're interested in these type of toys or wanting to gain some more knowledge, please have a look through the site. So earlier I spoke about the different manufacturers and the different sizes, and later on in the 1930s the vehicles were produced to go along with the figures. And what I've got here is a few items from the manufacturer Hausser. Now Hausser made the vehicles, clockwork vehicles, to run alongside the 7.5 centimetre range. And what's quite interesting here, this is quite a rare early 1930s searchlight vehicle. If we look at this original paintwork, the plum colour here and the green and the yellow, it is extremely, if not almost identical to some of the camouflage helmets of the World War II period. But what's also interesting to note, with the manufacturer Hausser, they did this early colour camo in the 1930s, and then later on in the war, when we got into the late war period, they discontinued with this really attractive colour, and they kind of went on to a dull grey twin tone colour, which is this one. So this is a late war vehicle from the same manufacturer, and as we see, it's lost all the vibrant colours and it's a more dull grey, but it's also still camouflage. But after the war, when it was later taken into West Germany or East Germany, the colour just turned to a very basic grey. So earlier I was talking about the camouflage paint in the earlier production. Here we have a later produced reconnaissance vehicle, and this is produced later in the war, and obviously all the vibrant camouflage is gone, and it's a very basic two-tone grey camouflage, and this is made by the well-known company Tippco, and we've also got some Elastonlin panzer troops here as well. So staying on the theme with the company Tippco, their vehicles were very intricate and quite complicated, and they were always clockwork, and this particular model here has got the clockwork tracks, and a full crew should normally have 9 either Luftwaffe or Wehrmacht personnel. This one dates from the 1930s as well, and it does fit in with the 7.5 centimetre range. So another toy manufacturer from the 1930s, a company called Gamma, and they really specialised in the Panzer vehicles. And what we have here is an early Panzer tank, circa 1930. And it's a very, very detailed and well constructed model, and this is quite an early one, and we can tell it's an early one because it's got these metal tracks on it. And later in the war, and getting towards the end of the war, they were running out of metal and resources, and the later models can be found with a rubber track. So this is slightly more desirable with the metal tracks. It has quite a few features. It's got the machine guns at the front. As per the early regulations for Germany, they weren't really allowed to have a full working cannon at the front. So this is quite an early vehicle. It's very well engineered. It's fully clockwork on the track, and it also has working guns at the front, and if this was in the dark you'd see that there's a flint inside, which makes it look like the machine guns are firing. So typical Germans, is very well engineered, and if not over engineered. I mean, remembering that this is a toy. So hopefully you enjoyed that small video on some of the stock and a little bit of an insight to the history and a little bit of knowledge about the figures and the vehicles. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a comment, or if there's any other videos you'd like me to do on any of my stock, please feel free to get in touch, and I'd be happy to do that for you.